Okay, now let's back to this reading the book, the discussion on the common Buddhist text. What is the date today?
18.
Okay, today is 18 April. Today is 18 April 2019. We're reading the common Buddhist text now. We come to, there are few versions of it. The online version, the PDF version, and then we have this common Buddhist book of the two printing version. But I think that there's a big one and small one. I don't know. So I'm using the big one, the printing versions on page 92. Maybe best to say L is stand for what? Can you remember?
Life of Buddha.
Yeah, Life of Buddha. Stand for life. The life 31. L.31. We come to the reading or discussion on the life 31. A lowly person becomes honored by God through ordination and awakening. Okay. Maybe we can start to read from the other side. Maybe, yeah. Can you just start to read that? Yeah.
Okay, sure. A lowly person becomes honored by God through ordination and awakening. I was born in a humble family, poor, having little food. My work was slowly. I was a disposer of withered flowers, despised by men.
Despised
By men, disregarded and
revived.
Making my mind humble. I paid homage to many people. Then I saw the awakened one, revered by the
revered. So revered. Okay.
By the Sangha of monks, the great hero entering the supreme city of the Magadha people. Throwing down my carrying pole, I approached to pay homage to him. Out of sympathy for me, the best of humans, stood still, having paid homage to the teacher's feet. Standing on one side, I then asked the best of all living beings for admission into the monastic community. Then, mercifully, teacher, sympathetic to the whole world, said to me, "Come, monk." There was my full admission.
Okay. Can you read the next one?
Dwelling alone in the forest, not relaxing, I myself performed the teacher's bidding, just as the victorious one had exhorted me. For the first watch of the night, I recollected my previous birth. For the middle of the night, I purified my divine eye, and in the last watch of the night, I tore asunder the mass of darkness. Then at the end of the night, towards sunrise, the gods Indra, Sakka, and Brahma came and revered me with a cupped hand, saying, "Homage to you, thoroughbred of humans. Homage to you, best of humans. To you whose intoxicating inclinations are annihilated. You are worthy of gifts, sir." Then seeing me revered by the assembly of gods, giving the smile, the teacher said this: "By austerity, by living the holy life, by self-restraint and self-taming, by this one is a Brahmin. This is the supreme state of bringing a Brahmin."
Okay. Anyway, this is this passage is this text is from Theravada, one of the most composing verses, and I belong to this Khuddaka Nikaya, one of the canons, one of the book or one of the texts. Belong to the Khuddaka Nikaya. It's all record about 500 of the Thera monk, or 600, I cannot remember exactly the number now, 500 something. So of the Taylor monk who claimed the time when they become arahant. But of course, I mean, the reason why I guess they include this one in here, because just to say that, because the Sunita doesn't come from really like a very profane or very rich family, but rather come from a very humble, very poor family, or maybe even a very low caste persons. But he also, by his devotion or his practices, he also could attain arahant, I guess. Well, I mean, this is maybe you could somehow understand to carry the message that so anyone who are actually just put themselves into practice under the right Dhamma, so they would be able to achieve that kind of enlightenment. But unlike, you have to understand in Indian culture in those days that when you're low caste people, you can only be a low caste. There's no way you could change your status. So this is kind of another interesting sutta to show because he was really like humble, saying that he came from born in a poor, little food, and even his work is very low, But with his, however, he had a good quality, right? That he sort of awakened one revered by the Sangha monks, and then he has his making my mind humble, and he also pay homage to many people. So you could simply just maybe put it in the modern terms that he didn't really like, having in other words, like unconfident mind. He had a confident mind also, because the way he make himself confident to be humble, maybe best to understand that. So, I mean, I'm sure that now even in the modern time, you see some people, whatever nowadays status, in a lower status person, like unrich people, when they become very humble, I'm sure that you could see that the good quality that they have, right? Now, there's a word, then the merciful teacher, sympathetic to the word. I mean, this certainly is an adjective or to qualify how this merciful teacher is. So have the great compassion to the whole world, said to me, so come monk, that was my full admission. So it's a term that ehibasipo. So it's a term that also the same term that you find in the when we qualify when you do the true refuge to the Dhamma, right? When you do refuge to the Dhamma, so the Dhamma is Swakato Bhagavato Dhammo Santitiko Akaliko Ehipasiko, mean come. So, or you could say that's, now this is also a Buddhist text. So by the way, back to a little bit our subject, we don't have to talk about the name and the person, but so something, if you could read that, during that time the Buddha said Ehipasiko, then it started to become a monk. You could argue that now you don't have to have ordination, you just do that. Hey, come, then you be a monk. You can argue that because you find the text. But when you learn Buddhism, you cannot just because you can pick up this from a context and then you say, that's how you should do. That's the Buddha actually that time when the monastic, one of the monastic system or the monastic Sentuama, when the monastic system is not, you would say that it's not as what later on, how it would be later. But in the earlier time, that this is also very clear, this is the earlier time. So then when the community of the Sangha, it's not really have a system as such like now we understand. So that time the Buddha, when anyone that want to be a monk, the Buddha only say, come with me, like this way, come monk mean ehipasiko, come to him, and they suddenly become a monk. They don't need to go through any procedures.
So there will be no ordained?
No, that time no. That in the earlier time, but later yes. So presumably maybe during that time the Buddha enlightenment maybe, for sure before 12 years they definitely know. Maybe even after 20 years though, then they started to have a lot of the so-called the Patimokkha, the so-called the monk's rule. In early time there's no monk's rule. The first 12 years definitely there were no monk's rule. Yeah, but but you could argue that now, look, I can do that also. I just say, hey, Basiko, and everybody just be a monk, and you could argue with that. And you could text say also. But this is when you study Buddhism, it's not, you cannot I mean, certainly a lot of things can be discussed. You cannot just simply argue because, oh, after how many years I become a monk, I can call this.
师傅刚才那个是法随念吗？
Yeah, that was that's what I say, the recollection of the Dhamma. So one of the later on the word ahipasiko means come to see, and then it's not simplified as being a monk, but simplified that mean that you could always invite them to be joining in the retreat or joining the practices and to see the teachings. Yeah. Okay. Any other question or any comment with that? I think that's.
Do they have to shave their heads?
We don't know. Actually, it's a good question. But still, traditionally, we believe that when the Buddha said that ahipasiko and they agree that they will be really joining the sangha, they have to shave their head. Because why we think that it should be? Because there was few stories saying that 1 or 2 person after when they hear this, their head automatically drops. So, yeah, but we must understand those are rare cases. Okay, everybody loves the rare case and fantasy that that rare case will become true. You know.
Because they are getting old, so become bored.
No, it's like that immediately it drops. Not because, or maybe that's a good explanation. Maybe it could be the statement say that way, and later on that people misunderstood it or just try to explain that way. It could be maybe like you're saying, it just say afterward they become bald and they will not grow the hair. I don't know, but at least that's how the traditional we understand, saying that after when they hear that they agree and that the hair automatically drops. There were few cases happen. So if they say that way, it means maybe they have to shave their head. You know, yeah.
One thing I noticed here is in every single sutra, sometimes people will come to see the Buddha, and they would greet the Buddha or greet him differently. So sometimes people just walk around him and just pay homage to him. Sometimes people just stand outside the door and look at him. But this one is like he paid homage to Buddha's feet. That's rare.
Yeah, I mean, it is versus maybe normally when we say the pay homage to the Buddha, that's a good point. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's just a general understanding that when you say you pay homage to the Buddha, it means you pay homage to the Buddha's feet.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if there are lots of people, how would that work? But I mean, for individuals, certainly, if there's an individual, just few people, that they will pay the homage to the Buddha's feet. I want to say, because this is composed in the verse, maybe for the rhythm reason or what, and they have to put the pay homage to the Buddha's feet. I'm sure they must be saying that mean they paid homage on the feet, of the Buddha, on top of the, yeah.
Is it because when they pay homage, they need to touch the master's feet?
Yeah. No, you have to put your forehead on top of the feet.
Not only touch.
Not only touch.
Whoa.
No. It's that you knee down and then the most important is not to touch your feet. Touch your feet actually it's become a symbolic kind of doing homage. Mean you honor, you touch your feet and you put the feet on. You see, in Indian tradition, you touch your feet and then you keep it here. It's a kind of more like a symbolical, comparatively. Symbolic is also symbolic action is also in a comparative sense is they just touch it and then just keep on. Actually, to be more honest, your head has to put on the feet. But I guess sometimes they don't do that. It's not because they didn't want to do it. It's because for many reasons, many people there done. Everybody, if they keep their head on that, it takes time, right? So that's true. Yeah. I said the story when we went to Sanchi, when we just left the Sanchi, and he would just become a novice monk that time. He was a Samanera, and so because we have to join anyway, we have to join a Taiwanese pilgrimage. We went there a little bit earlier, so I think we finished that pilgrimage. I cannot remember. I think maybe before.
With those Taiwanese group.
No, there were no.
Sanchi. We went to.
Oh yeah, with those. But somehow I don't know why we came out first or what. We went out of way, and then there was a group of people saw him, and they all worship him in the line, standing in the queue. And his feet, he has all these good merits, you know. And I was standing beside like a attendant of I'm the attendant of the Mahathera.
40 years then.
Mahathera Sakarananda. Nobody worshipped me. I only worshipped him. Under the sun, because he was white and tall and fat, right?
They are all lay people.
Lay people.
Wow.
Some of them are not just touching his feet. Some of them put his on his feet. That means he looked like to them looked like a Buddha.
But my hair was long gone before that.
And I was standing next to him, and nobody worshipped me, and he was so nervous. He asked me, "Teacher, 师父, what should I do?" And he got that sweat, on his head. I say, just do your blessing anyway. So I'm sure that if we go to India, he's very welcoming. First, fat enough, tall enough, and white enough. They have all these good qualities. They're fat enough, tall enough, and white enough. And also he doesn't love to wear shoe. He loves to put a slipper. Yeah, and that's what the people think that a good monk should be, And at that time I was having a shoe with me. I would just, because I have a slipper for a long time. I just don't want any more anyway. Okay, so yeah, he had the experience. He said, "Do you want to say something about that? How do you feel?"
Pretty much that. He pretty much sums it up. So there's nothing.
Okay. Now, I think this is pretty simple. Just said, and afterwards he ordained as a monk. You could say by become monk, and then he attend arahantship. And then so the teacher said this, knowing that he was actually revered by the assembly of the gods, and say by authority, by living the holy life, by self-restraint and self-taming, by this one is a Brahmin. This is the supreme state of being a Brahmin. Okay. So the term the Brahmin referred to mean a religious person. Maybe put it in the modern term, mean like what does it mean by the really religious is because those who follow the authority, living a holy life, self-restraint and self-taming. You could simply just say that's one of the very basic or fundamental definition of Brahmin is, or the priest, or so-called the priest, or nowadays maybe also called the religious leaders. Okay. All right, now we come to another paragraph on the life of the historic Buddha 32. A skillful teacher effort needs to be neither too taut nor too slack. This is also from one of very famous story from the monk called the Sona. Okay, in Chinese usually translates as ear. You want to read it?
Oh, okay. This passage illustrates the skillful way in which the Buddha taught. It concerns a recently ordained monk who was too forceful in the energy that he applied to meditative walking, and who nearly gives up being a monk as he gains no beneficial result. The Buddha advised him to approach things more gently, though not in a slack way. While this advice relates to a monk, it is more general relevance to spiritual practice. Because of the excessive application of vigor in pacing up and down, the skin of Venerable Sona feet broke. The place for pacing up and down became stained with blood, as though there had been a slaughter of cattle. Then the following thought arose in Venerable Sona's mind as he was meditating alone. The Blessed One's disciple dwell, applying vigor. I am one of them, yet my mind is not free from the intoxicating inclination with no grasping. I have my family's possessions, so it might be possible to enjoy the possessions and do karmically beneficial actions. Suppose that I, having returned to a low life, should enjoy the possession and should do karmically beneficial actions. Then the Blessed One, knowing by his mind the mind of the Venerable Sona, just as a strong man might stretch out his bent arm, or might bend back his outstretched arm, vanishing from Mount Vulture Peak, appeared in the cool grove. He approached Sona and asked him if he was thinking of returning to a lay life due to the failure of his spiritual efforts. When he said that this was true, the Buddha said, Sona, what do you think about this? Were you clever at the lute's stringed music when formerly you were a householder? Yes, Venerable Sir. Sona, what do you think about this? When the string of your lute were too taut, was your lute at that time tuneful and fit for playing? No, indeed not, Venerable Sir. Sona, what do you think about this? When the string of your lute were too slack, was your lute at the time tuneful and fit for playing? No, indeed not, Venerable Sir. Sona, what do you think about this? When the string of your lute were neither too taut nor too slack, but were keyed to an even pitch, was your lute at the time tuneful and fit for playing? Yes, indeed, Venerable Sir. Sona, even so does excessive application of vigor conduce to restlessness, and too feeble vigor conduces to slothfulness. Sona, therefore, do you determine upon an even balance in vigor and pierce the even balance of the spiritual faculties and reflect upon it? Yes, indeed, Venerable Sir. The Venerable Sona answered the Blessed One in assent.
Okay. And then, do you want to continue to finish it? Yeah.
Then the Blessed One, having extorted the Venerable Sona with his exhortation, just like a strong man might extend his bent arm or bend his extended arm, he, vanishing from in front of the Venerable Sona in the cool grove, appeared on Mount Vulture Peak. Then the Venerable Sona determined upon evenness in vigor, and he pierced the evenness of the faculties and reflected upon it. Then the Venerable Sona, dwelling alone, secluded, earnest, ardent, self-resolute, having soon realized here and now by his own higher knowledge that supreme goal of the holy life for the sake of which sons of good families rightly go forth from home life into homeless life, abided in it, and he understood birth is destroyed. The requirements of the holy life have been fulfilled. What ought to be done has been done, and there's nothing more to be done hereafter. And so the Venerable Sona became one of the arahants.
Okay. Now, this is, I guess, is quite a very famous, and actually, sometimes even later on, I wouldn't say later on, I cannot remember which sources. And some sources added that even when during the Buddha's, when he was practiced, there was a saying that one day when he was trying too hard doing his austerity, practicing his austerity, and heard somebody playing the music, and suddenly he realized that it's the same as that, the same thing that you could not let the string to be, too slack or too tight, but rather you had to arrange the string to key them into what they call the even pitch, right? So, but anyway, this is also from a monk called Sona, and Sona is also famous not because of this case also. Actually, he also came up from a very rich family. And especially it's said that he was a kind of auspicious person. When he was born, he had some of this sight came up, and then his family also become even more rich. So then, of course, unexpectedly, then later time, then when he in his youth, then he decided he wanted to become a monk, And I want to say that it's not only because of these cases, Venerable Shona is famous, it's also because his background is very, very powerful background, very rich, very renowned background. Okay. And of course, I'm here. I'm not sure you have anything to comment and, comment after reading this. Here, try to emphasize into this title saying that a skillful teacher, because so effort needs to be neither too tight nor too slack.
So, as a student, as we are, how do we know what is the right tightness?
Well, if it's too tired, mean you're too tight.
Yeah, I mean, how do I know myself?
Yeah, you know. If you do keep on practice of it, if it when you feel that too tired. I mean, generally, if you find your effort is too tired, you're too constrained, you're too anxious, or you are too tense on what you're practicing. This means you are too tight to practice. I'm sure now you know what it means by laziness now, right?
Yes.
I mean, because you've been lazy more than you are not lazy, so you understand what is laziness can conduce you. But when you're working too hard, you also know you're working too hard. Let's say when you do meditation, you feel that you're really, I mean, just say one simple thing is that you don't let your mind let me see how to put it this way. I mean, how do you know? I guess you know if you practice when you practice to come to a certain time, it takes time maybe for you to realize that also. I mean, don't think about just practice sometimes. Think about in your work, I don't know, your field, your area. You definitely know what is meant by too much or what is not, what is meant by too tight, what is. It's same as like you do anything, the same thing, right? You certainly know your limit, maybe. When I say limit here, I mean you should know that you don't want to exert yourself too much on that. Let's say you could, like one of the very simple example, like people sit there, they could sit for 2 hours. But if they want to say that now this time I want to sit for 10 hours, I mean that is too tight, right?
So,
but maybe you could do that. There was a time comes to you, you could do it simply without any problem, then do it. Yeah.
There's So how do we know we are doing 精进, or how do we know we are working too hard, too much?
I mean, of course, this is, as I say, this is, you cannot just say one word or two words. It's not, there's no, I mean, if you, let's say, if you try too much, what do you feel? What's the result of it? You get disappointed, right? You cannot let your mind calm down. During the time when you're trying too hard, you don't feel comfortable, you feel hard, you feel really, I don't know, I wouldn't say suffer, but you really feel, I usually believe that, I mean, maybe depend on situation. I think that one of the things you do see is that you could see because your craving is too much on that time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very obvious, I guess, to me.
You're chasing after something that's
instead of your craving is there. Instead of just being enjoying that of course sometimes we have a slack. Here the slack. The slack is that you somehow think, okay, that's enough, I don't want to work, that's enough. So you don't want to put a little effort. You could put a little effort, but not really, the effort is not necessarily having a strong desire to say, I must this, I must that. Then you're about to suffer. Then when the desire going too strong, you definitely will feel disappointed, right? The result, because you wouldn't get the result that you wanted to. So you need to build up that slowly. I won't say slowly, you need to build up that in moderation. You know.
I think you can also see it from a meditator. Like those people who tend to be a little bit more tense, their body is a little bit rigid and they always have this facial expression. They're trying so hard to see the nimitta and everything. But
and in the long run, they cannot keep that too. They might have some experience, but they were not able to sustain it. right? This at least that I know it didn't sustain, and it's not about the sustain. They get it. Some people they may they buy. I mean that's why I say you don't just put one case to say everything. But let's say the person maybe even though it's sustain, and if the instructor or teacher admonished the students, asked him just to, just stay relaxed. If they really could do that, of course he could do it well. But usually these kind of people, they don't want to listen for that part. Am I right? Because to them, they have a wrong way of understanding. They think, why I have this is because I took all my effort there. So, yeah. But there's not going to deny the effort is there, but it's about, I think it's a craving that it becomes too strong, I think a lot of people lost the understanding that you have a target to do something, not necessarily is equal to when you want to crave for something, right? It's too different. Let's say people say, I want to have a target to earn money, to be a rich person, then you crave for rich, or become a rich. It's a different thing, right?
I think it's really interesting that he called enjoying possessions and do karmically beneficial actions as low life. Like.
Where do you say the low life?
When he was thinking about returning back to his
the
life.
first paragraph.
Oh.
The end of the first paragraph on page 93. Suppose that having returned to the low life should enjoy the possessions and should do karmically beneficial actions. It's interesting he calls that a low life. Like I feel like I like.
You think that's a good life, not a low life? But actually, I don't know why I would say that. Even if I think it that way, I want to go back home. I think it's a low life to me. But I like to hear what you say. Good, yeah, yes.
I feel like, enjoying possessions and, like, even ignoring enjoying possessions, just do karmically beneficial actions. Like, for a lay person, sometimes, like, the idea is, like, as a lay person, you can contribute to the Sangha and the temples and that's a karmically beneficial act.
It is, but it still is a low life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, this is, you could argue, you could debate in different way, but it is a relative sense, maybe put it as, let me see, let's say you've been appointed as a president, okay, but you might be, whatever background you are, when they say the president, okay, let's say, don't say the president in America, but let's say the president in one of the big charity, right? And then somehow you think that's really too much for you. You work too hard, you need to really, and you have to take care of so many things. And this is how I think too. I sometimes, even if I say I don't want to be a president or whatever, any kind of position, and when I want to lower down myself, it depends the term. When I say low, it doesn't mean I look down. It's just like, okay, now why don't I just go back to the low life, like just be a normal trustee. I don't have to take care of anything, but I could do something else to help this organization or charity, right? So I guess if I use that language, I don't mean I think it carry maybe similar language. It's because they know when you are actually in that kind of position, it's, when I say high and low, I mean, karmic action might be what, but you know the difference, because when you're in that position, if you really could do something good, it changes you tremendously for oneself and for the world. This is, I think, that in that way. But that doesn't mean that when you are not a president, you can change things also. But we definitely know very well, when be a president, say that you're the president of America, the president of any country, their decision is just only one, right? You could say just one person. Their influence is much powerful than even the ministers in certain sense, I mean, I think that might be by that. But being a monk, of course, people don't see the difference between in the cosmetical change. But of course, at least the Buddhism believe that when you be a monk, you are trying to practice and you changing yourself. Actually, you change your whole life. Not like, well, the whole life is not right now, but your whole samsara, right? Even though you might not attain anything, but that changed tremendously. And then also, if you really achieve something really good one day, that you change the whole universe in something you don't see it. You know, that means by the high and what means by the low.
So by if
I would say the same language. Even if I one day I change my mind, I think that is a low life. But I might enjoy my life. I don't mean that. But I will not recognize that, oh, those are the low life. But this, I definitely would think the life, I changed my life in a different pattern, in the lower kind of life. I might love it more, but I still think that's a lower life. Okay.
Maybe from the perspective of changing from having the full control, say for example, if this one has, not even for our hardship, if this one attend the Sotapanna, he has punched the tickets, and comparing that to someone has been, even though they have created, this one could create a wholesome karma, but still, this one is bound to be pushed around by karmic force. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so become a stream enterer has a huge impact on the cosmos.
Well, at least you okay, maybe put it simple way, at least one person in the whole universe would not harm the other that much. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't think it's a big deal, but this is how at least if you look at the whole universe, I mean, that's how I look at the whole universe is, even though people have power, ultimately, is not to harm the other, actually is a huge, huge thing. Right? I mean, I'm talking about the Sotapanna that they would definitely, that kind of mind is not going to interfere them too much, right? And one day definitely will become Arahant. That certainly means one other person is not going to harm in the whole universe. Because if we look at in this life, let's say the person might be good, you never know the next life could be really bad or evil, right? And the evil could influence a lot of people become evil too, so.
Is karma something that you can compare high and low,
Yeah, in Buddhism, karma also compare high and low. You could say in the mundane language, in what we call the conventional language, like be an animal is low, definitely than being a human, right? The reason is because human we have more choice, and being an animal, maybe you have a comfort life, the best dog, the most cherished dog in the most rich family, and blah 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 blah, but still they don't have the talent that they could really motivate themselves to change, huge change about their personality or their character.
Is it comparable in the sense of by becoming a monk and really practicing, ardently, the karma of that is higher than...
No, I think this is another question. But here we must back to this topic. The topic in Sona here, he is a monk and he practices very hard. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that this doesn't work for him. So he thought, why don't he drop this kind of life, then go into the lower life? That's all. Yeah. So we are not talking about okay, he be a monk, he doesn't practice. And other lay people to practice, who is high, who is low. I mean, that's another question. But here just simply say, he's working very hard. It's not that he doesn't work.
Right,
okay.
I don't mean that.
Yeah.
I mean a person who, whether you become a monk or not, you practice a lot, but living a secluded lifestyle and practicing very hard, versus someone who making a lot of money and contributing a lot of money. Are those karmas really comparable?
It's a definitely different thing, a different karma already, right? One is that you're making money, you have a great contribution for that, and then you build up a lot of great marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of marriage is it had nothing to do with, you could say it certainly has nothing to do with cut off the craving, cut off the anger, cut off the ignorance. Mm-hmm. But that kind of marriage, it might be very fruitful for for the world and universe for many other reasons. But still it's different thing from the karmic kind of, because something we talk about karmic, I mean a lot of people only, if you only say about the karmic in terms of the cause and the effect. So, but that's the cause and effect in terms of gaining what? You know, this is how we generally think. And that because I do this contribution, I donate this, and I donate to the right person, right place, so I get more merits, right? Or I help more people, even $1. Sometimes $1 I can only help one, but $1 I help more 100 people. You know, because you know, giving the right place and the place I still help the other. So the money become very how to say efficient. The spending ways become efficient. You could argue with that. Those who get lots of marriage, but in terms of being a monk, and it's during the Buddha's time, is that the main job, the main work is there to kind of the craving, you know, and become a better person, and then also be advisors of the people to be aware, you know. It's lay has to be really going on that kind of different path of karma. You have follow different path of karma. For the monk, the path of karma is in order to, I mean, ultimately to cover it off the defilements, right? So and then they become an advisor of the lay people. Then they should do their work, but then they still ask them, you have to be careful, don't overreact a certain thing. Let's say, for example, not be carried away by the craving and so forth. Do you think they have a same karma when a person is living in a monk and then even as a lay person?
I'm not sure how to compare those because I feel like when you actually become a stream mentor or eventually arahant, supposedly you accumulate no more karma. Like whatever actions you take don't accumulate new karma. So I'm not sure how to actually compare a secluded lifestyle where you actually practice a lot and may reach something, how to compare the karma of that to the karma of like a lay person who makes a lot of great contributions to the world. So like even from a definition perspective, I don't know how to think about it. And even if they are the same type of karma, like I just don't know, because like if you contribute a lot of money or effort as a lay person to like, you know, like preach or whatever, like build a new temple and stuff, like the impact is more tangible and you can see it, versus like if you're practicing in a secluded lifestyle, like maybe it's more hidden of like the future great impacts on the universe. Even though I think it's a great thing to do, like I just don't know how.
Yeah, I know. This is the reason why one of the big differences between the way to understand what it means by profitable or wholesome, right? The word we call wholesome. Usually, actually, you can see that lots of time, the Buddhism always put the word wholesome or unwholesome more in the ethical sense. When I say ethical sense, it's like even without having a craving or without having anger, those are in that kind of ethical sense. But we always put it like people who are having the marriage, like doing the marriage. We don't use wholesome and unwholesome, we use the punya, right? The word means 福报, 福田, right? So, but then you could see very clearly the Buddha also say, you know, doing a lot of this, like later we're going to talk about the dana, and then having a good ethical kind of thing. It's all actually still get, some part is about the punya, but then ultimately it's, this is maybe, that's what a lot of little different from the other religious emphasis as well. The emphasis in the Buddhist religion, as Buddhism, look at as there's a reincarnation take place, is what actually qualify a person, not only just because how much they contribute as a punya, mean the 福报, 福田, but it's also how much that person's mental quality is about, right? Yeah. You know, you had to imagine in old day, now you have the psychology. And then maybe you could just explain a little bit more closer psychology so people kind of more or less understand. Think about even like maybe you didn't come across, if you come across people like 50 years like they were more than nowadays maybe 70 years ago. Now they may be about 70 years. In those days, especially the Asian, they don't have this psychological understanding. A lot of things, the way you to tell them is more difficult. To do, imagine this 2,000 years ago, there was no such a term called psychology. Yeah, even though Buddhism always talk about the mind, but still for a lot of person practitioners get confused about that too. Okay, did I answer some of the questions about? Yeah, okay, all right. Right, okay, thank you. Now we come to this another one, the skillful. We can finish this one before we take a little break. When we finish this one, then we can take a little break. The skill, no, we've done that. So we are doing, we can read a little bit about the Buddha skillful means as a teacher on the life of the historic Buddha 33, L.33. Why don't we just read that first and see? Oh, but I don't understand when I read this, it say they will come, the story come from few, but I only read one story here. Am I right? Yeah, it's okay. Why don't we just go read that? So they actually have three stories. I think three or four, three stories, yeah. But I only read one story, it's fine. So, do you want to read? Yeah.
In this passage, the Buddha teaches the monk Nanda, his cousin and stepbrother, to ensure he remains as a monk after he had expressed his intention to return to lay life. He asks him why he intends this, then helps him see that if it is a beautiful female he is after, the heavens have plenty of this, more beautiful than any human. Having thus got him to remain a monk, Nanda then comes to see that doing so to attain beautiful goddess is a low reason, and spurred on by the criticism of other monks, properly applies himself and attain awakening. Thus the Buddha skillfully guides him to the highest goal by first offering him a tempting lower goal.
Okay.
Another story of the Buddha's skillfulness as a teacher comes from the Dhammadipa commentary. It describes a goldsmith's son who is particularly bad at doing all the meditation practices he's given, which has been focused mostly on the unlovely aspects of the body, so that he thinks he will never be able to concentrate. In despair, he visits his teacher, Sariputta. Several times, Sariputta takes him to the Buddha, who realizes that in many previous lives as well as this one, he had been a goldsmith and just needed an object that was beautiful to settle his mind so that he can attain the meditation. A negative object would never, at first, be helpful for him. He conjures up a golden red lotus for the boy and asks him to practice meditation on that object. The boy quickly attains the 4 meditative absorptions. The Buddha sees that only now, with his mind calmed, is the time right for the boy to see the signs of decay and decomposition. He causes the lotus to wither. The boy sees this, and then other lotuses naturally occurring, all at various stages of development, from newly budding to fully mature to decay. After a verse from the Buddha, the boy becomes enlightened.
Okay, what about another commentary? Another Dhammadipa commentary? Dhammadipa. He hasn't read it yet, so okay, good.
Another Dhammadipa commentary stories on the death of Kisa Gautami's daughter. She's unable to accept this, and carrying the child goes in search of medicine to cure him. People would think her mad, but a kind person directs her to the Buddha. He says he can cure the child if she gets him a pinch of mustard seed.
but only if it is from a house where no one has died. Going in search for this medicine, she comes to realize that she's not alone in losing someone to death, and accepts its reality. The Buddha then teaches her, and she becomes a true pendulum.
Okay, right. Thank you. As I said, I mean, even though he mentioned about the Buddha's skillful means, the first story about the saunas, Venerable, and then now he also quotes the three stories. One actually, I think is from Udana, while in the Khuddaka Nikaya, and the other two from the commentary of the Dhammadipa. So, and the first one we're going to read it later after the break, and then we don't want to mention the second one and the third one, where that shows the Buddha was teaching his skillful ways, using his skillful way. Skillful mean to teach is about when Sariputta actually instructed one of his disciples to practice the meditation, basically on the breath. But he said that actually Sariputta always instruct a person to practice meditation, start with the breath meditation. Because we know that not only these cases, in other cases, is but when he looked after the Rahula, actually the Siddhartha sons as a prince, the Rahula, when he 8 years old become a novice monk, he actually was under the instruction of who took care of him. It was a Sariputta who took care of him. And because there were several texts, if you read it, the Rahula also learned from the breath. But later on, that Buddha actually directed him to meditate other technique as well. But they didn't mention it here. But at least this story, the commentary said that the Sariputta instructed him in the breath. But this person finds it very difficult because actually all his job is as a goldsmith. So then when the Buddha realized that he couldn't even meditate and couldn't enter any jhana at all by the meditation on the breath, so he asked him just to visualize the gold. To him, he always see the gold, and he can visualize any gold image so easy. So that's why he was instructed to visualize the image of the gold as a lotus. And also culturally, lotus always symbolic as a symbolic of the purification. So he could easily just meditate with the gold, and then he could visualize the gold color. But after when he got the jhanas, and the Buddha also, here they say that he using his supernatural power to show him that gold, whatever he visualized the gold, that always will decompose itself. So to see the anicca, the impermanence, and so forth. And he said because of that he get enlightened also. Yeah. And the other one that is not included here, but he did mention here, the third story is about a kissa. Godami is also a famous story about a woman who had a child die, and then he seek for the Buddha to ask the Buddha to help her to revive or to gain the life back, of his child. So, the condition is the Buddha said, it's a skillful means. When everybody know when the child died, there's no way to help it. But in order to make her to realize that, so they asked her just to look for the sesame, Here, what do you say? Mustard seed. It's not a sesame? Oh. I always thought it's a sesame. Now that's why I say sesame again. It's all right. Okay. Mustard seed, yeah. And then, but providing the condition is that the house, a house where no one has died, right? But she was searching, of course, with the hope she went house to house, and but there's impossible that any house that no one died before also. So, and that's how he realized that the reality is that someone will die also one day. And then the Buddha then teaches her, and that's how it becomes a stream mentor. So, it's not really directly the Buddha would just say, okay, listen, you need to do this, no, but ask them to really change. It's a skillful means in order to teach them to become to help them to follow the teaching correctly. All right, we have a break first, and then we'll come back to read the next one about Step's brother, Nanda. It's a very famous story, actually. But this one, at least, is from Udana. So it's from the original text. But even though this Nanda, even composed in Sanskrit or any other language, become a beautiful story. because he have a kind of unique kind of story. We will talk that after the break. Okay, I'll see you later online. Yeah.